So it's Suzanne Hunter here at the Holistic Centre in the heart of Godalming as part of the Good Health Guys series. And I'm delighted to be having with me today Keith Graham. Hi Keith.
Hello.
Nice to talk to you today.
Good to be here.
Now Keith, you are involved in a technique as a practitioner called Rolfing. So explain a little bit about what Rolfing is to people.
Okay, well, Rolfing, it's named after the doctor who developed the system, Dr. Ida Rolf, in the 1950s. And it's a system, it's a way of working with the connective tissue in the body to bring better balance and better alignment, and usually that gets rid of pain and discomfort and gives more freedom in the body to move.
Right. So when you say connective tissue, well, people know about muscles and ligaments and things like that, but is this a particular kind of tissue?
Yeah, connective tissue, or sometimes it's called the fascial kind of matrix. And it's a substance in the body that connects everything to everything, and it used to be ignored, but now they're doing lots of research into it, finding it's quite an interesting substance. And what happens is that it's always growing, it's always sending out little kind of candy floss tentacles. So when we sleep, it binds us a little bit, but we wake up and we stretch, and it breaks those things. But where there's continuous holding, either through poor posture or emotional holding, it starts to bind us into those old age shapes. So Ida Rolf's idea was that if we free those structures, then we gain more freedom, and it's a more permanent freedom than just relaxing a muscle. Yeah,
so Ida Rolf, tell us a little bit about this lady.
She was she was a formidable little lady. Did her doctorate in connective tissue, fascia, which nobody was interested in. She was a biochemist. That's what she did her doctorate in. And I don't really know. Nobody really knows how she developed the system. She was very influenced by yoga and dance, and some of the people that were developing things like Feldenkrais and Gestalt therapy at the time. So it's a kind of a hodgepodge of ideas that she had, but she developed this system, and it's been going and flourishing ever since.
Oh, see, I mean, you mentioned movement-based orientated things. Is there a bit of movement involved in the Rolfing technique?
Yeah, we're looking at how people move, and in between sessions I give a little bit of movement homework sometimes, because it's those habits which we have, not always good habits for us, which cause the connective tissue to bind us. So it would be no point in doing the hands-on work if we didn't also include a little bit of movement work. And some of that is just kind of feeling into areas that we've forgotten in our bodies.
Yes, so it's a bit of people watching, a bit of sort of
people
postural
watching. There's some psychology in it a little bit, because we're not separate kind of body, mind, spirit. It's a holistic kind of view of the body.
Yes, absolutely. Is there you mentioned hands-on, but also emotional sort of coaching people as well. What sort of techniques do you use in a Rolfing session?
We're using our hands, our elbows, sometimes our feet. That scares people. Not often our feet. And it's a slow sinking kind of tangential movement, because that helps to go between the layers of the fascia. So we're trying to separate layers of fascia that have become stuck. So the movement needs to be slow, which calms the fight-flight system, and we go as deep as the body will let us. So it has a bit of a reputation, falsely, to being an excruciatingly painful thing. But that's not necessarily the case. We go in at the level that the body will accept us.
Yes, and I guess you feel a little bit more pain because you've hit on something that might be blocked.
Yeah, but that's not, we're not going to go into that painful area and go just grin and bear it. We're going to kind of work around it or go through it gently. The client is just as much a part of the process as the practitioner.
Yes.
So it's a team effort.
I've had the pleasure of having this treatment yesterday, and yeah, you do definitely feel a sort of benefit afterwards, and also at the time as well. Sort of work on the stomach, on the feet. I guess it's just wherever that particular person comes into you. Do they explain their issues?
Well, no, the Rolfing, the genius of Ida Rolf, so what makes Rolfing different from myofascial release and some of the other kind of methods which are dealing with fascia and connective tissue, is that we have a recipe. So we're going through, Ida noticed that the body unwinds in a certain way. So you pull a kind of thread somewhere, and somebody else is tightened up. So we go through the body in a certain system, and it's usually 10 sessions. And that's kind of like having 100,000 mile service on your car, I guess.
Oh, really? Oh.
But it's not always the same. When you've become an advanced Rolfer, you can kind of go off recipe a little bit. But we're looking always at the whole body. Some people do just come for kind of what I call fix-it sessions, if they've just got a bad back or a frozen shoulder or headaches or whatever. But the better strategy is to have the 10 sessions.
Yes, it's a case of you have to work on different parts at different times as to what the body's telling you.
Yeah, and it's different themes. So the first, I won't go through them all, but the first theme would be breathing, which is the most repetitive thing we do. And then we go down to the feet to get the person grounded, because unless you're feeling safe and grounded, the rest of the body won't really feel safe to let go on an unconscious level. Mm-hmm. And then we go to the sides and the ribs, and eventually about session 7 we put the head on straight and
could all do with that.
and so on. Yeah.
So would you say that this is all Rolfing technique, or have you over the years been able to add in and incorporate other techniques into it?
Yeah, I've done lots of other things. I've done a bit of craniosacral therapy. I've qualified in that. I've worked with horses, doing structural integration with horses and donkeys and dogs and all sorts of things like that. I've done a thing called Rossiter technique, which was developed by a guy who was a Rolfer but was working with American football players. He was only kind of a tiny guy and he was wearing himself out, so he works with his feet and gets the people to stretch, and that's very effective.
Oh, was he called Rossiter?
His name was Richard Rossiter. Yeah.
Oh, so there's lots of different techniques which can enhance a Rolfing experience.
Yeah, and I've done some osteopathic training too. I did 2 years at the British School of Osteopathy, and I've since done a qualification which allows me to do clicking if I need to. But
yes. Yeah. So when did you first get involved in Rolfing?
I graduated in 2001, so it was a 3-year training. I went to the Rolf Institute in Boulder in Colorado, and then finished off in Brazil doing the movement part. So it's tough thing to do, but yes. Someone has to.
Bit of Brazilian dancing.
Yeah, a bit of Brazilian dancing. So that was about 97 I started. And I've been Rolfing full time ever since.
Yes. Yeah. Are you am I right in thinking a president of the UK Rolfing, or
the
board?
The chairman kind of thing. I just coordinate, mainly because no one else wants to do it. But it does give me a chance to interact with the Rolfers in Europe and in America and all around the world. Yeah.
Did the techniques in different countries change, or was it always across the board?
No, the words Rolfing and the little boy logo that we have and Rolfer are actually trademarked names. Mm-hmm. So it's been protected quite severely, really, which means that there are still today only about 2,000, nearly 3,000 Rolfers in the whole world. But that's because you can't just train anywhere, and they won't just accept anyone to the training. So it's good because you know that if you hear of a fellow Rolfer somewhere in another town, you know they're going to be good because they've had a good training.
It's a standard.
It's a good standard, yeah. It's a very good standard.
So how long is a Rolfing session generally?
It varies. Most people do an hour. Some people do a little bit longer, an hour and a half. After that, any longer, and you're getting a bit cooked. Yes.
Yes. What kind of conditions do people invariably come to you with?
I do a little survey actually, and over 10 years, the leading kind of thing is back pain, really, and it's because we're all sitting too much. Back pain, neck pain, shoulder, knees. Yes. Joint pain, really.
Yes.
But quite often I work in London too, and I get dancers and yoga teachers who just want to get a little bit further in their performance and their technique. So that's always good. And also I get people that have had talking therapies, and they've left their kind of old trauma behind in their mind, but their body hasn't been told, so they need to sometimes have their body to catch up with what's going on in their mind.
Right. I was going to say, because it's emotional as well, especially with the back, putting things behind you and sitting on.
And if you're walking around kind of hunched up, but you're fine now, then the brain is going to be getting signals. Actually, I don't think everything's right, so we need to get the body relaxed and open, and then it'll match what's going on in the mind. Yeah,
because we're not all dancers, obviously, but we want to come into a room and feel relaxed and at ease with ourselves, don't we? And I guess,
and that's one of the things that people report. Like over the years, people have been saying, I really want to leave my job, and then after 10 sessions, they seem to have developed a new confidence. They go, I've quit my job, or I've left my partner, or they develop a kind of a self-confidence very often to do the next step in their life that they need to do.
Brilliant, very fulfilling, isn't it? It's a very sort of empowering thing for people to do.
And then I always wish them well, but you never know where the next step's going to lead. But all you can do is give somebody a good body.
Yes, because you had a life change, didn't you? By being used to be an animator, I believe, and then
I used to be a cartoon animator in the days before computers, so it's all hand drawn.
Hand drawn, yeah, that's the real skill.
But it was really useful because it showed me how to you have to learn how to see movement. And that's one of the things we do during a Rolfing session. We watch the person moving and walking and try to see where the lines of stress are in the body and where they're not working as well as they could do. And I found I could do that quite easily when I came to the Rolf training because I'd had years of animating.
Yes, because like with Walt Disney, isn't it? Watching a deer for Bambi, watching those animal movements. It's the same thing, isn't it? You start to watch people.
And those guys are really skilled, at getting movement from a piece of pencil on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
It was a wonderful transition to obviously then do it to actually help people with their own body movements and flexibility and
although I was doing a lovely trade and it involved sometimes working with 40 different people, at the end result was a TV advert selling a can of baked beans, and that in itself didn't feel so fulfilling to me. So
not so much movement with the baked beans. Well, I don't know. you eat them. No, it's brilliant, isn't it? So you you come regularly to the Holistic Centre as well as London to do your work, yeah?
Yes, I have. I come regularly. I'm trying to make this a bit more of a focus, the Holistic Centre, because I live near Godalming.
Yeah.
But I go twice a week up to London.
Yeah, it's a lovely, warm, inviting centre, and
it's
nice to be healed here.
Funnily enough, I've only just come back, but I started here when I started my practice about well, it wasn't quite the start, but about 16 years ago I was here. So it's quite nice to come back.
Well, we're glad to have you here, and the treatment's fantastic. If you want to be rolfed by Keith, then this is the man to do it. Keith Graham. He's at the Holistic Centre, and if you want to find out more, it's www.holisticcentre.co.uk. Thanks for your time today, Keith.
Thank you.